I have with me here Rick Lang. He's the director of photography at Crealde School of Art. And he was actually my instructor. He's the one that taught me almost everything I know. When I first got my camera, my DSLR, I had it on automatic mode. I had no idea how to use it. So I decided to come and take lessons, and Rick taught me how to actually use my camera. So I'm glad to have you with me, Rick.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so we're going to ask you a few questions, and you can tell us all you know about photography.
Okay.
Tell us a little about yourself and how you got started in photography.
I got involved in photography in 1973 when I was a senior in high school, and a friend of mine who was a year ahead of me in school was taking some classes at Georgia Tech, and one of his classes was a photo class because he was an architectural student. And so during the Christmas break, he asked me if I wanted to go over to this gentleman's house, and while he was going to borrow the dark room, and I could hang out while he made some prints. And when I got to the interesting thing was when we got to this gentleman's house, someone I knew, he was watching the Dolphins game, and that was the year that they went 17-0. And so I was really into that, and I had to make the decision: did I hang out with my friend or did I watch the Dolphins game? And I ended up going into the dark room, and I was just mesmerized by it. It was just so exciting for me to see that image come up in the tray that I started taking photographs, mainly to have something to process because I liked the darkroom part. But over the years, while my interest in the darkroom never waned, my interest in taking pictures became a lot stronger. But my first job in photography was I worked for a little local newspaper. I did photographs and wrote, and probably didn't do either one of those very well, but it was my first experience getting a pay for my photography, and over the years I've done different things in photography. I had a commercial studio where I did catalogs and.
Did you do like portrait photography?
I did some portraits photography, mostly in the editorial realm, as opposed to like what you get at Sears Portrait, or Brian Allen or something like that. I've even done a few weddings, and so about 20 years ago. I started teaching here at Crealde, and I was doing that and my commercial business, and then when I became the director of photography, because I wanted to pursue my own photography interests, I kind of let the commercial slide, and so I started becoming more involved in the school, and also doing doing my own personal work at a much more aggressive level.
Can you tell us a little bit about your position at Crealde and what that entails?
Well, I'm, as you said, the director of photography. My responsibilities is basically everything that happens in the photo department. I schedule the classes, I hire the instructors, I set out the curriculum. We have over 40 classes in photography. And I manage the facilities that are part of the photography department, and I also sit on the program steering committee, which is a committee that steers the course of the school. The other two directors and the executive director and I make up this committee, and I'm also one thing I really enjoy is I'm a member of the gallery committee, so I am responsible for curating photo exhibitions, including the one that's in the gallery as we speak.
You had one pretty recently, didn't you, with a guy from Atlanta?
Yes.
Can you tell about that?
Yeah. Well, actually, there was 3 photographers in that show, and it's currently in the gallery. And Perry Dilbeck is the one from Atlanta.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about.
And he did a he did a rather extensive project, a long-term project, on truck farmers in Georgia. It started out that he was photographing these little farms, single ownership farms that were there when he grew up, and they were slowly, going away, and so he wanted to capture some of that, and he ended up doing work pretty much all over this Georgia, and the photographs he did have a certain personality to them that's the result of the camera he used, which is called a Holga camera.
Holga, yeah. I bought a Holga a few months ago, and I've tried it out. It's sort of neat because you get some of that light seepage coming in on the sides.
The imperfections of the camera is its charm.
Yeah.
But the other one is Pete Singhoffen, who's also using a Holga camera, and he's using it in a really different way because he's taking a series of pictures that's about the road trips that he took as a kid up and down US 1 when he lived up north, and he would come down to Key West for summer vacations, and so. The imperfections of the Holga camera in this particular case works out very interesting because it makes them look like memories.
Oh, well, that's neat.
Yeah, it's a very nice. It's a very nicely done effect. And then the third photographer is Dan Baferi. Dan is the director of the photography department at Daytona State College, where I went to school, and he was actually the one that got me interested in curating in the first place.
Oh, really?
I worked in the gallery there at the school when I was a student, and had the opportunity to meet some of the more famous photographers living and working at that time, and so it was kind of an honor for me to have Dan come in and do this show, and along with it, and he did a really wonderful series of photographs of his family over the years, and it's a very touching body of work.
How long would that work be available for viewing?
I believe it comes down around October the 17th or so.
Can anyone come and actually view the
photos?
So it's open to the public?
It's open to the public. It's free,
Okay. Is there certain times that people could come?
You can come basically anytime the office is open, which is basically 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday. The office closes at 1 on Friday and at 2 on Saturday.
Okay. That might be something that people would be interested in, coming and viewing. So, about your photography, what type of photography do you prefer? Do you prefer landscapes, people?
My photography is what you probably would call in the traditions of documentary photography. I try to make photographs that have some sort of social commentary to them. My landscapes have the effect of man in them. Most of what I've done for the last 15 years has been a series of photographs that have used signs as symbols of man's presence in the landscape. These signs are representative of the history and the culture and that man goes through, and so that's kind of the primary goals of my photographs. However, I also have a fine art background, interest in fine art, and so I think I bring a little of that to my photographs as well. Concern for composition, for lighting, and how those functions can add to the depth of the meaning of the photograph.
Right.
I have done a lot of portraiture. When I was in school, we were visited by a very famous portrait photographer by the name of Arnold Newman, and
oh, really?
Yeah, and I had a chance to work with him pretty closely during that time, and so it was something that portraiture. It was something I was very interested in, and enjoyed doing. I'll be honest though with you is that one advantage to landscapes is that they're not dependent on being available.
Right.
They're available.
Yeah, they're always there.
People sometimes can not show up, or so sometimes it's a little harder to do the portraiture for that way. But I like all kinds of photography. I do abstractions. I do still lifes. I just like it all.
Is any of your work on display here?
Not right at the present time. I had a one-person show here in 2007, and however, I will be having some work here in October, late October, for the Granted Show, which is a show that was sponsored by United Arts, and is for the people who, for the last 3 years, received grants from United Arts. So I received one in 2006. So.
Oh, okay. So we'll be sure to look out for that.
Yeah. I'll have a nice grouping of the photographs I did on this project I did in Mississippi.
Okay, that'll be interesting. Yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah, I think it will be. So, do you prefer digital or film? I know you've done both.
I've kind of evolved into digital, and it's kind of funny because I didn't think that I would. If you'd asked me this question like 5 years ago, I said, no, I'll still continue to do film as long as I can do film. But digital has offered me some advantages that film doesn't have, but a lot of people like to make a great controversy about whether you use digital or film, and that's it's not a controversy. You know, whether you use a digital camera or film camera, it's a tool,
Right.
and whatever gives you the results that you're looking for is what you should use. I
So
mean,
do you shoot with film at all now, or?
I haven't shot with film in quite some time, although I still have my film cameras. I think that there are some possibilities that I would take out my large format film cameras and shoot them. There's some advantages to that camera that I might be pursuing sometime in the future.
What advantages would that type of camera have?
Well, you have a lot of adjustments to that camera that you don't have, or a lot of different kinds of adjustments that you have with that camera that you don't have in a regular SLR camera. So, you know, for instance, you know, if you can tilt the camera to straighten out the lines. You know, say if photographing a building, or you can you have a little bit more control of how you place your depth of field. You can make finite adjustments in the composition by raising or lowering the standards of the camera. So it's a little different camera. It's an old looking camera. The camera I have is made out of wood, and has a bellows and put a hood over your head to work with it.
So what type of equipment do you use, and what are your favorite lenses?
Well, I'm currently shooting with a Nikon D300. The lens I use the most is a 16 to 85 zoom. And you know, again, going back to what I was talking about with the camera being a tool, I don't really have a favorite lens per se. I try to use the lens or the equipment that's required for the picture I want to take, as opposed to trying to say, well, I've got to shoot this with my 50 millimeter lens because that's my favorite lens.
Right. Yeah.
I think that a lot of people kind of get into what is their favorite, and I try to look at it from this point. I want my photograph to come out a certain way. Okay, so what lens adjustments, what camera adjustments do I make to make it come out that way?
Okay.
And that's kind of how I approach it.
And you tend to use more of the wide angle, I mean, more often than not?
No. I run through the gamut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes maybe my favorite lens is the foot zoom. You remember from class?
Yes, I remember the foot zoom.
Yeah. Is that I'll figure out what I want to get out of that of the lens, and then if I need to make any adjustments from that, then it's usually on foot.
Do you ever, when you're shooting, I noticed that you do a lot of your prints in black and white. When you're shooting, do you sort of know when you're shooting, I want this to be a black and white photograph, or I want this to be in color? Do you have that in mind when you're shooting?
I think the reason I shoot in black and white is because my photographs are about content. They're not about how pretty the flower is or how red the paint is or anything else like that. It's about content, and so I shoot in black and white, so those things like color and those things don't get in the way.
Do you actually shoot in black and white, or do you shoot in color and then convert it later?
No, I shoot in color and then convert it in black and white.
Okay.
And mainly for a lot of reasons. Primarily, though, I like having the choice. But going back to do I see it as a black and white image? I don't see it as a black and white image because I see in color.
Right.
But over the years I've developed a sense of tonality, and so I just tend to see in tones and areas of brightness and darkness, and my experiences allow me to kind of extrapolate that as to what it would look like as a black and white photograph. And one of the things I do and that I try to do is that when I see something I want to photograph, I try to, in my mind's eye, I try to see it as a photograph. as the finished image. And so then what I do is then once I see it in my mind as a finished image, then all I have to do is say, okay, what are the adjustments I need to make in order to make it come out the way I see it in my mind?
Right. Okay.
And
yeah, with cropping and everything, because I know
cropping. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know cropping is an evil word to some people, but yeah, if it makes the picture better.
Yeah, well, I know in class there was this one particular photograph that you said when you took it, you had in mind that it was going to be square, that you was going to crop it as a square.
I tend to see things square.
But I did notice that when I was taking classes with you that you did mention that you would see ahead of time what you wanted the photograph to be and how you wanted to crop it.
Yeah, and the important thing about that is that, you know, some people crop because they take their big picture and they see, well, the composition should have been a small part of that big picture.
And then you end up with just a little bit of pixels, and you can't do a lot with
it. And so I try to see the final picture, you know, and then compose for that. And so my compositions are fairly tight and fairly precise, but you know, there's more on the actual image than what I plan to use in the final photograph.
Do you do all your own prints?
Oh yeah. To me, that's part of that's as much a part of the art as the taking the photograph.
What do you use to print with?
I use an Epson 3800, which is a high quality printer. It uses pigmented inks, which have long durability. I use a paper called Fine Art Velvet. It's made by Epson, and it's a rag paper that's specially used for fine art purposes. So,
do you tend to make large prints or smaller prints?
Most of my prints are printed on 13 by 19 sheets of paper, and I always print a little border on there. So like the biggest square print I would make would be like 12 by 12.
Okay.
And but I like to have at least an inch or so on the border. It goes back to kind of the way I map my work.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've seen some of them, and they look really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. What is your most memorable project that you've worked on?
Gosh, that's probably the most memorable one was I landed in something quite by accident when I was in my last year of college, and I hooked up with the people at the Edith Bush Theater. It was the Civic Theater of Central Florida. Unfortunately, the theater is no longer in operation, but they had like 3 theaters that they did productions with, and so I asked them, as part of a school project, I said, I'd like to photograph, auditions, rehearsals, setting up the stage, the people building the sets, and everything except for actual performances, which everybody can see.
Right.
And so I was going to, it was my last semester in school, and I shot for that last semester and turned in the project for my grade, but I kept on photographing. I photographed on that project for about 2 years, and then probably another 2 or 3 years I added work, but wasn't actively involved in the project. And one of the things that made it so special was hanging out with this entirely new group of creative people, and I learned a lot about creativity from a much different viewpoint. Photography is kind of a solitary act. Theater is a collaborative effort, and so there's a lot of parallels, but there's also a lot of differences, and that was very intriguing to me, and so something I really enjoyed doing. The sign project, which you're probably most familiar with, is something I've been doing for 15, 16 years now, and it's a project which every time I feel like I've got this about wrapped up, something else comes up that I can pursue with it that makes it different, and one of the nice things about that particular project is that I've really grown with it. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but the pictures that I did back in '95, when I 94, 93 when I started it is, you know, is a lot different than the pictures I'm doing today.
I'm just curious, did you ever go out to New Orleans and photograph the Katrina aftermath?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I received a grant this past year to spend 2 weeks in Louisiana photographing, but I purposely stayed away from the New Orleans and the Katrina type images because I want to make photographs of history and culture that's more long lasting, that's more a part of the fabric of the people. Where I thought that maybe Katrina photographs would be a little too topical.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious about that. Have you ever had any of your work published or displayed at shows?
I've had my work appear in 2 books. One was called Small Town Orange County, and the other one was called We the People of Orange County. And it was they were 2 books that were commissioned by Orange County government. I've exhibited widely. I've probably over the 25, 30 years I've been exhibiting my photography. I've been in probably 10 or 12 solo exhibitions and too numerous to remember group exhibitions.
Well, the 2 books that you were talking about, are those still available? Are they still in print?
I don't know. You might be able to contact Orange County government and see if they have some.
I wonder if the library would have them available. I mean, if anyone was interested in checking it out.
Possibly so. Possibly so.
Okay.
And I've been had a few magazines that featured Lake Sumner Lake Sumner Style magazine did a story on me about a year ago, which was very nice. And probably you could go to their archives and find it. And then when I had my one person show, I had like 3 or 4 nice magazine articles by various publications.
Are those online?
If their archives would go back that far, I'm sure. Yeah.
What I'm curious about is if we can come up with a link, maybe I could put that in the show notes and people can actually go out and look and
I'll see what I can do about that.
Okay. Okay. So that'd be interesting if we could do that. Do you belong to like any photography groups or any clubs or anything like that?
I don't at the present time. I used to be real active in Society for Photographic Education, and unfortunately kind of let my dues lapse. But there's someone there, that's a group I think I'll probably go back to. But other than that, not been a big joiner.
You've done some judging, haven't you, for some of these camera clubs?
Oh yeah. I get. In fact, I'm going to do some judging for the camera club this week. Yeah, I've done judging for camera clubs. I've done outdoor art shows, both the judging and the jurying, and so it's it's kind of a fun thing is see all the work that people are doing, and the interesting thing about judging an outdoor art show is that at the beginning of the day there's like 200 or 300 artists who thinks I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and by the afternoon there's only like 30 winners that now think I'm any good, and then at the very end only the guy that gets first place.
It's the only one that likes you now.
That was the only one that really likes me. Popularity is fleeting.
So if people wanted to reach you and learn more about you, do you have a presence on the web?
I have a website at ricklangphoto.com.
Okay.
And you can I also have a blog, Rick Lang Photo at WordPress. ricklangphoto.wordpress.com is my blog.
Okay.
Also, if y'all, you can look me up on Flickr.
You're on Are you on Facebook or Twitter?
I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I don't twit.
You don't tweet?
Tweet, not twit.
Okay. So I'll be sure to put all that in the show notes, so I'll need to get that information from you and put it out there. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we...
Well, can't think of anything right offhand except to say that I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and I think that you're doing a great job with this. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And if you ever want to talk again, I'll be happy to.
Okay, I might take you up on that.